When the strongest holy sword and the strongest Capricorn both choose a boy to inherit, what kind of prodigy will be created? From the moment he tightly grips and draws the sword, he is destined to become the warrior who leads this era, changes fate, and vanquishes evil. But before that, I was just an ordinary 18-year-old civilian. My name is Ryan. At this moment, I'm sparring with a blonde boy in the Royal Academy. He is pushing me back step by step, leaving me no chance to fight back. Within 10 moves, he knocks me to the ground. He smiles and says to me, "Now in the Royal Academy, except for me, his brother, no one else spars with him." Then he told me with a grin that although he went easy on me this time, he felt I had improved a lot compared to last time. Hearing this was like a lightning strike to me. My self-esteem was trampled upon. I picked up my sword again and slashed at the blonde boy in front of me. The onlooking classmates watched the two of us fighting again, and couldn't help but sigh that Ryan was no match for Liam. But except for Ryan, everyone else can't withstand Lian's one-hit defeat, although their names are both spelled Leo. Obviously, Lian is stronger. Sure enough, I lost again this time. It's been 3 years since Lian came here. No matter how hard I train, I couldn't surpass her. She and I are different in every way. She has the looks and character of a comic book heroine, very popular with girls. She says she's a commoner, but her hair color doesn't lie. I don't know why he doesn't go to the noble class, but stays in the commoner class, blocking my view. While I was contemplating, Lian reached out his hand and came to me, showing concern for me. "Brother, are you okay?" Looking at his innocent face, if only this guy were an obvious villain. Just as I was about to reach out to him, a sound of high heels rang out. Upon hearing this sound, I knew Chloe had arrived, and immediately let go of Lian's hand, ready to leave quickly. After all, losing face in front of a girl, my pride would not allow it. She was very upset seeing me leave. He asked me if I fought with Lian again. Clearly, I couldn't win. Why did I have to show off? Those words felt very harsh to me. Lian was just about to explain to him, when Chloe suddenly let out a scream. Then she came forward and grabbed my bleeding hand, preparing to disinfect and treat it. I shook off his hand, and told him not to meddle. A little scratch is no big deal. Under his surprised gaze, I left the place gracefully. That night, I was at the training ground, furiously slashing at a wooden stake with a wooden sword. This world is just so unfair. If my hair were blonde, if I had family support, if I had teachers of his caliber, maybe everything would be different. But all I have is hard work. But in this world, there are too many things hard work alone can't overcome. Today is still Lian's birthday. As the pride of the Royal Academy, she is having a grand birthday party. At this moment, I'm struggling with whether to keep trying. I've wasted 3 years here, but giving up now would be too frustrating. If some outcomes are predetermined from the start, what's the point of trying? I look up at the full moon in the sky, and shout loudly, "Oh moon god, does my effort really matter?" But the silent night sky and the bright moon do not respond. Yeah, it would be crazy if they could respond to me. But what I didn't expect was, the next second, a huge roar came. I looked up, and it seemed like a meteor was crashing towards me. I had no idea what it was. Fell right in front of me. I looked closely. It was a sword radiating dazzling light. Just as I was shocked by the vision before me, a voice came. "Rise, young man." I quickly searched for the source of the voice. Who's speaking? That voice came again. "Isn't it right in front of you?" I looked at the sword in front of me, as dazzling as the sun. And it was a talking sword. Could it be the holy sword? That's right, Leon. Just as you said, the world was never fair. The more some people get, the more others will lose. But opportunities are fair. For those who don't work hard, they have no right to blame life for being unfair. Only those who passionately burn through their lives have the right to talk to the moon about unfair fate. Leon, do you think you have this right? Hearing the holy sword's words, I closed my eyes, clenched my fists, and firmly told it, I have this qualification. After hearing my response, the holy sword said to me, then grip me tight. I'll give you a chance to prove it. I am very clear about what it means to wield the holy sword. It can change me. It can change all the injustices in reality. But I didn't. I didn't hold the sword. The holy sword asked me why I stopped. Without any hesitation in my eyes, I told the holy sword that although it has been difficult so far, but this ranking and result, unrelated to effort, facing this unfair reality, I cannot accept it. It's also something I always wanted to overcome. I don't want my past determination and effort to become worthless garbage. The holy sword asked, then why are you standing in front of me? I firmly told him, because you asked if I have the qualifications. I want to prove the significance of my determination and effort. Even opportunities should be fair. Let's end it here. Thank you for your company tonight. The holy sword. What surprised me was, the holy sword heard my answer, and showed approval and recognition. The next second, it emitted an even more dazzling light. You have proven your nobility. Warrior, I acknowledge you. Come, pick me up. Possessing a heart that is not swayed by unreasonable fate like bloodlines and families, and a will that proves your beliefs without craving gold and glory. You who possess all of this are qualified to be a warrior. Child, pick me up. This is the qualification you fought for, and a fair opportunity. Looking at the immense sword energy, listening to the words of the holy sword. At this moment, I did not hesitate. I grasped the holy sword with my hand. The holy sword told me, its name is Elcid. It's the incarnation of Saint King Roderick, the sword that leads this era's light. Leon, let's fight evil together. And the first time I held the holy sword, I was swept away by the immense and fierce sword energy and fainted. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying on my bed in my room. Could everything that happened last night have been just a dream? I unintentionally glanced back. The holy sword was leaning against my broken wall. So what happened yesterday wasn't a dream. At this moment, the voice of the holy sword came, reiterating once more, this is an opportunity you fought for yourself. But don't think that getting me will make you strong immediately. Since you've been given such a precious opportunity, you will endure harsh trials. Those who possess great power must go through an extremely arduous life. They may even have to sacrifice their loved ones. So this path is full of thorns. Do you understand? Lee, I heard and told the holy sword. I understand, but this is not a thorny path. It was an opportunity. Hearing my answer, the holy sword was first startled. Then he closed his eyes with relief, and told me to go to the training ground now. He wanted to see how I wield the sword, to determine my current level, and devise a method to teach me. Soon, I brought the sword spirit to the training ground. The sky was just beginning to brighten. The sword spirit asked me why I had been so tense since earlier. Someone chosen by the holy sword shouldn't act like this. I hurriedly explained to him. Although no one is here now, this is still a school after all. I'm holding such a big sword. If someone sees it, how should I explain it? The sword spirit thought for a moment, and agreed with me, then told me not to worry. He already had a solution. Just as I was wondering what the solution was, the holy sword in my hand suddenly emitted a dazzling light. These lights converged in my hand, and finally formed the symbol of the holy sword. The sword spirit told me that my hand now serves as the sword sheath, and I can draw the sword at any time. Moreover, besides me, no one else can see it in its spiritual form. This way, you can give me close guidance anytime, anywhere. Then you told me, enough chatting. Now show your skills. Hearing this, I felt a bit insecure. I was afraid of disappointing you. I didn't expect the sword spirit to say, how could you disappoint me? Because it felt I did my best under limited conditions. Things that the teacher didn't teach. It's normal for students not to know. How could I blame them or be disappointed? Hearing this, I felt very encouraged. I gripped the wooden sword tightly in my hand. My gaze became resolute. Then I took my stance, preparing to show the sword spirit my strength. I swung the wooden sword in my hand. Every move contains the blood and tears of my youth. But with each move I make, I always feel something is different. This is clearly just an ordinary sword swing. I have practiced this thousands of times. But at this moment it feels like I have someone's trust. My whole body is unconsciously filled with strength. The sword spirit also allows me to stop now. I turned my head and asked him what was wrong. Now I'm in front of the camera, yelling cut. He disdainfully told me. The wooden sword in my hand was about to break. I quickly looked down. Sure enough, the wooden sword was already in tatters. This had never happened before. I hurriedly threw the wooden sword to the ground. What's going on? The sword spirit asked me. Did you unconsciously turn the sword into this state? Although repeatedly practicing the basics can help you reach the level just now, I didn't expect you to achieve this without spiritual energy. The sword spirit looked at my bewildered face, and told me not to worry about the state I was in earlier. Relying too much on that power will affect your growth. When the time is right, you'll naturally tell me. But from what I observed just now, your basics are already solid. There's no need to teach you anything more. I just need to teach you how to control your body. I was puzzled after hearing this. Why control the body? You won't teach me swordsmanship. The sword spirit asked me. If you lost an arm, could you still wield a sword? Controlling the body is fundamental to martial arts. Although you have always been exercising, the method I will teach you is different from your usual training. Next, I want to see your physical fitness. Start running. If you don't listen, you'll just keep running. And you need to perform the actions I demand, like doing a handstand or hopping on one foot while running. Upon hearing the sword spirit's demands, I was quite confident about running, but I've never tried running a marathon using one foot or doing a handstand. Although I don't know the meaning behind the sword spirit's request, as long as it makes me stronger, I am willing to do anything. Starting today, after running 5 sets of 3 kilometers, I came to math class. Exhaustion swept over my body, making me constantly drowsy. The sword spirit reminded me to pay attention, and also told me it already knew where to start teaching me. It asked me where I felt I was lacking. I thought for a moment, is it swordsmanship and aura? The sword spirit told me no, it's vision. There's an old saying, first vision, second footwork, third courage, fourth strength. For martial artists, the most important thing is insight. Next is footwork, then courage, and strength is ranked last. Of course, this doesn't mean strength isn't important. It's just that the first three are more important than it. When I heard this, although I didn't completely agree with this view, I do think vision is very important. But vision is different from muscles. So far, I haven't heard of any way to train vision. Can moving your eyes more improve your dynamic vision? At this moment, Sword Spirit seriously and playfully told me that from now on, he will teach me observation techniques. He wants to show me how useless my eyes have been before. I asked him in confusion what these observation techniques were. Sword Spirit told me to look ahead. I focused my gaze on the teacher who was giving a lecture in front. Sword Spirit told me to concentrate the focus of my eyes on the teacher standing in front of the blackboard. Then let me focus for the next 10 seconds, and memorize the scene in front of me. I, Zhao Jianling, said, widen my eyes, carefully observing and memorizing every detail on the teacher. After 10 seconds, Jianling asked me to close my eyes, and asked how many lines of words are on the blackboard. Hearing this question, I was thunderstruck. Wasn't I supposed to watch the teacher? The Sword Spirit explained that it just meant to focus my eyes on the teacher. It didn't say to only watch him. I was speechless for a moment. I was just watching the teacher. I didn't pay attention to the words on the blackboard. Sword Spirit taught me a lesson. I stared for a full 10 seconds. The blackboard was in my line of sight, but I only remembered the teacher. Couldn't remember anything else. Why is that? The answer is simple, because you only see what you need. People use their eyes much less than they imagine. Maybe to filter out unnecessary information. Few people fully utilize their entire field of vision. Leon, you need to pay attention to your entire field of vision. You have to see the scene before you as a painting, and imprint it all in your mind. Therefore, you need to relax your eyes first, then broaden your horizons. In the future, you should remember more than just 10 seconds of vision. It's every moment's vision. Although the Sword Spirit's requirements are too outrageous, how could the guidance of the Holy Sword be easy? I mustn't complain about being tired. The Sword Spirit has me look above the blackboard again, also for 10 seconds. I didn't blink at all. At this moment, Lian also noticed my strange behavior, not knowing what I was staring at. After class, my eyes were extremely tired, and my head was about to split open. The Sword Spirit said it was effective. The progress is very smooth, because if you feel your eyes are tired, it's either because of dryness or excessive strain, but the cause of headaches is different. It's because the activation of previously unused body functions is accompanied by pain. It's the same principle as muscle training. You're doing great. Leon, keep up with your training. Afterwards, the Sword Spirit always casually asks me about all the details I see. How many candles are on the candelabra hanging in the corridor? Did the boy we just passed by wear glasses? Yes. Did he smile at the girl? Yes. How many times did he smile at her? Is the light on in the 12th room on your left? Yes. And what about the room above it? The day's training is over. Lying in bed, my eyes are already in unbearable pain. The Sword Spirit comforts me. After all, it's the first day. I did pretty well. I didn't ask for a break or give up midway. That's worth some points. Of course, if I had asked for a break, he wouldn't have agreed. I haven't pushed myself to the limit for a long time. It's been a while since I felt this exhausted, like today. The boy obtained the holy sword meant for the son of the plane, but the holy sword didn't teach him the sword technique to open the heavenly gate with one strike. Instead, it taught him the crystal eyes. Swordsmanship, at its core, is just a method of using the sword. The reason the Sword Spirit didn't teach him, it's because no family faction would casually teach swordsmanship to outsiders, let alone spiritual energy. If someone like me, without background or backing, suddenly mastered swordsmanship and spiritual energy, it would make people around me feel strange. Therefore, the Sword Spirit said it would wait until I left the academy to teach me the method to learn spiritual energy. What's most important for me now is to focus and learn to observe. For Ryan, do you want to defeat that guy as soon as possible? Originally, I wanted to choose him as the master of the Holy Sword. Now, I choose you. Hearing this, I was instantly full of determination. The Sword Spirit told me, determination alone is not enough. During the upcoming training, if you remain the same as before, you will become weary. To keep you from getting bored, starting tomorrow, every time you don't pay enough attention, I'll punish you. Of course, this isn't to torture you on purpose. You improve by getting disciplined. This saying is actually quite true. Your mental strength is really strong, but aside from spontaneous will, some external push is still needed. When I heard it, I felt the Sword Spirit was right. Moreover, starting tomorrow, there's no way I can answer all his questions correctly every time. Since I'll be punished sooner or later, I might as well experience it in advance. Let myself gain some insight as soon as possible. This way, I can also develop corresponding vigilance. Jianling asked if I wanted to experience it now. I told him to bring it on. The next second, a strong electric current swept through my body for a full 5 seconds. In an instant, I was charred black and collapsed on the bed. Jianling told me, that was the first time, so it wasn't well adjusted. This time will start off weaker, but if I keep answering incorrectly, then the intensity will increase. So as long as you don't answer wrong, you can avoid punishment. Stare at the sword spirit, and cheer me on for tomorrow. Lying in bed, I wondered if this was a holy sword or a demonic sword. In the coming days, I practiced physical fitness with the sword spirit, and practiced observation techniques. After a month, the sword spirit's daily tests improved my observation skills. There were a few pigeons on the dormitory roof. Which of the 10 pigeons flew away first? How many pigeons were on the 6th open window? Those weren't pigeons. It was the crow that praised me. Got all the answers right. Although I now need to concentrate to barely succeed. But achieving this result in just 1 month is pretty good. Leon, you barely passed. Hearing his praise, with tears in my eyes, I asked, what's the next training? Jianling gave me special permission to leave early today and rest. Great. This is my first break this month. Just as I was feeling happy, a voice called out. It was calling my name. It was Lian's voice. When I turned to look at him, my gaze changed from before. Lian, long time no see. Ever since I started training with the sword spirit, I haven't seen him again. Even Chloe hasn't spoken for half a month. He said I truly am his protege. Coming to the training ground right after lunch, he said he was a bit worried about me, so he came to check on me. But now he's reassured. I asked him what he meant by that. He told me that I hadn't mentioned sparring with him for nearly a month. He thought I had given up challenging him like the others, but he could tell from my eyes that I would keep going. Because the expression on my face was completely different from those who thought they couldn't beat him. I said, you're amazing, when I heard that. You could even see that. You came to find me just to say this? If you've finished, then hurry up and leave. Lian laughed at how cold I am, saying it's been a long time since we talked. She wanted to chat with me, but what is there to talk about between us? Still, I sat down beside her. She told me, the one talking to me now is not my junior, but Lian, who has been hiding her identity. Previously accepting my challenge was just her cooperating with me one-sidedly. I acknowledged this when I heard it, because if he wanted to refuse, he wouldn't even need to use his prince status. I could spar with him continuously. It's considered his goodwill. Suddenly, Leon stood up and said to me, come on, it's time to settle this. Let's make the next duel our final duel. The old rules, no spirit weapons, only penmanship swordsmanship. But this time, we'll use fake swords instead of wooden ones. If I win this time, then you shall become my retainer. When the child of the plane meets the chosen one, what kind of conflict will erupt? If he wins, I must become his retainer. So what if I win? As a prince, Lian told me firmly. As long as it doesn't damage his honor and family, he will satisfy whatever I desire. Whether it's swordsmanship or spiritual energy techniques, it's all up to me. I can decide with just one word. I thought it was acceptable when I heard it. Then let's fight. But the duel time is up to me. Just like that, my first real battle with Lian was about to begin. When the sword spirit saw me still showing off. But now you're all dejected. You couldn't help but scold me. You agreed so easily. But now you're getting scared. I told the sword spirit. It's not because I'm afraid, but because I doubt if I've really gotten stronger. The past month's training was really tough, but I didn't really feel like I had gotten any stronger. The sword spirit comforted me, even though I didn't feel it. I had indeed become much stronger. Seeing my confused look, he explained to me that observational power is different from physical strength. It's a power in a different domain. You haven't really used it properly. How could you possibly feel your own growth? Isn't there a physical fitness test coming up? Leon, you can look forward to it, because something beyond your imagination will definitely happen then. After that, you won't say anything discouraging. The physical fitness test came quickly. Last time, I ranked 9th. You can't use spiritual energy during the physical test. But even so, the top-ranked individuals are always those with noble backgrounds. Not only can they absorb spiritual energy, but they've also been consuming spiritual medicine since childhood, and learning special body techniques. So getting 9th place in the physical test was already my limit. The sword spirit asked me what rank Lian got. Of course, it's 1st place. The sword spirit is watching Leon. It tells me that although he's not as good as you, it's clear that he also trains hard. He's different from those who rely solely on family background and do nothing. The fitness test involves a short distance run. You have to run 2 full laps around the training field. A total of 800 meters. Lian's last record was about 1 minute and 20 seconds. And I ran my heart out to finish in 1 minute and 40 seconds. The sword spirit told me not to be afraid. Now you are not the same as before. I'm by your side now. Soon it was my turn to take the physical test. With the teacher's command, we shot out like arrows from a bow. And just as everyone watched in astonishment, including Lian, of course, I took the lead. I left everyone far behind. By the time I reached the finish line, the girl with the stopwatch timidly called out, 1 minute and 29 seconds. This result amazed everyone. Even the teacher came to ask if I had some special technique. I said no. The teacher asked if he could confirm, by injecting a small amount of spiritual energy into me, to check if my body would have any adverse reactions. After confirming, I still hadn't learned to use spiritual energy. Then the teacher praised me. He didn't expect it would take just a few weeks. That's how big the penalty is. Can you share how you train with everyone? I explained to the teacher that I just stick to some regular training. The teacher looked at the recent training records. Every day, I left my mark. The teacher urged everyone to learn from me. Even Lian started looking at me differently. I asked Jianlin what was going on. So Jianlin focused the training on my muscle and nervous system. Those electric shock punishments were meant to train my muscle and nervous system. The reason I could master the basic observation method in a month was because you wanted to escape that pain. Come on, if you want to thank me, just forget it. I was just doing what the Holy Sword should do. Everything went well today. I'm in a good mood. When I heard it, I really felt once again that this is not a holy sword, but a demonic sword. I heard it also has the soul and personality of the Holy King Rodri. Is this Holy King an evil king? The results will be out this afternoon. I ranked second, and first place is still Lian. At 1 minute and 19 seconds, the sword spirit told me not to overthink it. After all, it's unrealistic to expect to beat him after only a month of training. I clenched my fists and told the sword spirit, I understand that very well. At least now the gap between us has gone from first and ninth place to first and second place. I will definitely defeat him. The Holy Sword asked me to leave the academy today, because there aren't any real combat opportunities here. It's not the right time to teach me swordsmanship yet. To learn the Holy Sword's techniques, I need spiritual energy to support me. At the academy, I can only continue to train my basics. As the saying goes, 100 practices make perfect. As long as my physical abilities reach a certain level, even Lian can't completely suppress the sword spirit. Let me find more opportunities for actual combat. But where can I find someone who will pick a fight without distinguishing right from wrong? But today, the opportunity came. I encountered 3 students from the noble class in the school corridor. They blocked my way, furiously accusing me, a commoner, of bribing the teachers. That's how I got second place in the physical fitness test. That's when I realized that these nobles weren't as good as me, a commoner, in the physical fitness test. It really annoyed them. I laughed and told them, if you don't like it, go cry to the teacher. But the arrogant few in front of me now are just looking for trouble. This combat opportunity has come. Just as I was about to continue provoking them, a voice came, don't get so excited. Even though he's a civilian, he's still a student at the Royal Academy, just like us. Everyone's eyes turned towards the source of the voice. It was none other than the renowned young Master Edmund. He said that the punishment for me should match the style here, to reflect the upbringing of a noble. As soon as he said this, those sycophants immediately agreed. Even the sword spirit couldn't stand it. This is the leader of those fools. What's so great about the Wopang family? I told the sword spirit. Until the last physical fitness test, he was always in second place. It seems he's very upset after I surpassed him. He doesn't dare say a word in front of Lian, but dares to pick on me. Edmund walked up to me and apologized profusely, saying it was the first time we met and he treated me like that. I might feel wronged, but we do not accept the test results. If possible, I hope you can accept my proposal. At this moment, I interrupted him. I told him to cut the crap. I was in a hurry to get to the cafeteria. His lackey shouted, how dare you be so rude to Lord Emond? But Emond stopped them. He asked if I dared to duel under the instructor's supervision. That was his real intention. His proposal didn't sound too bad, but the rules were extremely unfair to me, because he didn't include the requirement to not use aura in the rules. In other words, they will use spiritual energy to duel. If I refuse at this moment, they will definitely accuse me of bribing the instructor. If I accept, he will definitely set a trap for me. Just then, I noticed Lian in the crowd. I understood that if he was willing, in the current situation, he could completely help me out. With this thought in my mind, I quickly clenched my teeth. Are you kidding me? How could I seek help from my opponent? How is that different from begging? This is more humiliating than being knocked down. So I accepted their challenge invitation. They were surprised by my challenge. They didn't expect me to have so much courage, but I made a deal with them. The referee must be Instructor Helmuth, and I will only duel one person per day. If I win, you must swear never to doubt my ability again. Can you meet these few small requests? The reason for choosing Helmuth is because he's the devil instructor of the Royal Academy. If he's the judge, These people won't have a chance to play tricks in front of him. Edmund thought for a moment, and still agreed to my requests. He doesn't care who the judge is, just thought it was a bit of a pity. He couldn't stop hitting me until he was satisfied. After returning to my dorm, I couldn't help but complain to the sword spirit. I didn't expect to gain combat experience this way. The sword spirit laughed and said it was a good thing. But can I defeat those guys without using spiritual weapons? Previously, when others dueled with me, no one has ever used the spiritual weapon, so I don't know exactly what it's like to use one either. After hearing this, the sword spirit decided to show me, to fill in my knowledge gap. The sword spirit snapped its fingers, and instantly a light screen appeared before me. All my information appeared on the light screen in front of me. I quickly asked the sword spirit what this was. The sword spirit told me this was my current power level, and this is Edmund's ability value. Looking at the data comparison between me and Edmund, is Edmund really this weak? He's the second son of an earl. He should have had all kinds of elixirs, and has been subjected to harsh training since childhood. He should possess extraordinary abilities. Sword Spirit explained to me. He couldn't absorb all the elixirs he consumed. It was no different from taking supplements. His harsh training can't compare to yours at all. Without the boost of spiritual energy, his physical strength is at best 99 points of level 1. Leon, you have my assistance, plus your own hard work. You finally broke through this limitation. So even if you don't have spiritual power, you can still rely on your own strength to deal with those fools. Hearing the sword spirit cheer me on gave me confidence. My eyes became more determined. How could I lose to someone like Eamon? Before the match started, Instructor Helmet originally wanted to persuade me to give up, but when he saw the determination in my eyes, he gave up on the idea, and even said I've changed a lot in this past month. Teach those idiots a good lesson. Soon I entered the ring. The first noble I sparred with was very annoyed, because as a commoner, I dared to keep him waiting for so long, and I completely ignored him. I turned around and told the instructor that I was ready. We could start at any time. Thus, my first duel was about to begin. Leanne and Chloe also came here to cheer me on. Everyone was a bit worried. After all, this was disadvantageous for me who couldn't use spiritual tools. Moreover, a wooden sword infused with spiritual energy can also cause harm. The sword spirit asked me, Leon, do you want to check the abilities of the guy opposite you? I refused decisively, because no matter how strong he is, he's just Edmund's lackey. There's no need to rely on the sword spirit's power for a guy like him. I watched as the nobleman raised his sword and ran towards me. I saw through his attack route at a glance. A diagonal slash from the upper right to the lower left. The combo flaws were too obvious. Just as he reached me, I suddenly noticed how slow his attack became. At that moment, I didn't think much. I moved directly behind him with a single strike. At this point, Instructor Helmet's eyes widened. The other three nobles who were giving me trouble were also astonished. Even Leon and Chloe covered their mouths. Leon had actually knocked down his opponent with just a simple move. Just when I thought I had won, he staggered back to his feet, telling me not to think I had won just because I hit him once. He said he slipped and wanted to go again. Instructor Helmet told him to stop fooling around, because he already lost, and I didn't care. Then let's fight again. Both of them turned back to look at me in shock. The noble I was dueling pointed at me, praising my maturity. Then he took a stance, saying this time he wouldn't lose. The sword spirit reminded me not to defeat him with one move, because this is your first time using eye techniques in actual combat. It's hard to find a good practice partner. Leon, you need to let him know that ending it in one move is an act of mercy. I laughed and said no problem. Then I faced the nobleman, coming at me again. I stared intently at his every move. All his movements were very slow, so I can completely see through his moves. I can even anticipate his next action half a beat faster. The sword spirit, seeing my high fighting spirit, couldn't help but praise Leon. You have already mastered all his preparatory moves, so you can predict his next move. At this moment, we suddenly heard a loud clang. My wooden sword was cut in half by his sword. I realized that the pressure made him start using a spiritual weapon, but I can still predict his moves. He told me not to dodge. I found it amusing when I heard that. Facing an opponent he couldn't hit, he still attacked blindly without a plan, and lacked real combat experience. He completely ignored the issue of stamina allocation. Even if his body was strengthened by spiritual energy, the effect was minimal. Just as he was retreating after slashing at me, his leg stumbled. As he was about to lose his balance, I seized the opportunity, and struck his leg with my sword. In pain, he chose to retreat and distance himself from me. He even provocatively shouted that he should have been completely defeated just now. Such a level of sword technique could never bring him down. But before he finished speaking, he widened his eyes in disbelief, only to see that somehow I had appeared in front of him. Using a wooden sword, I delivered a lightspeed 10-hit combo. Soon, the nobleman fell to the ground, unable to move. The sword spirit asked me, Leon, how do you feel? I told Jianlin. He was right. Moving opponents are the best for practicing eyesight. The noble I beat up got up with a bruised face, hastily shouting to surrender. The instructor raised my hand, announcing to everyone that the final winner is Leon. I was naturally greeted with applause and cheers, but my victory made Emond and the others grit their teeth in hatred. Soon it was evening. Everyone was still talking about my duel with the nobles today. They didn't expect Leon to be so formidable. In the next few days, I consecutively defeated the rest of them, sending them all to the infirmary. Now, only Emond is left. Today is the day of my duel with him. The sword spirit, Bloodthirst, told me your opponents are really useless. Their swordsmanship and martial arts are all just for show. They can use spirit weapons, yet they are still so weak. I comforted the sword spirit not to be disappointed. Today's opponent is different. The sword spirit praised me, saying that my attitude of not underestimating others is indeed very important. After entering the arena, I saw Emond in front of me. With the blessing of the aura, his physical abilities surpassed mine, and last time when the sword spirit showed me his abilities, there was one skill that caught my attention. That was his unique swordsmanship. Although this skill was only at level 1, it's not a remarkable achievement, but this unknown skill is the most threatening. Even eye techniques might not see through it. If we simply look at physical ability, then I definitely have the upper hand. But if we include spiritual energy, then the noble in front of us has the advantage. If he can really infuse his sword with spiritual energy, it's already very difficult for me to just fend off his wooden sword. I kept my eyes fixed on Emond in front of me, pondering whether to change my attack strategy, focusing more on containment. But using this match as a preliminary skirmish before dueling Leon is perfect. As the instructor announced the start of the match, a sword slash whizzed past my ear, even grazing my cheek. Watching Edmund's attack, I realized I couldn't fight back. The speed difference between us was too great. Even if he's uneducated, he's still a direct descendant of the Bourbon family. And he arrogantly said to me, no wonder those guys lost to you. If you're a arrogant commoner, of course, you should be trampled underfoot by me. But you have value to be recruited. If you're willing to become my subordinate, then such trivial personal grudges can be written off. I didn't respond after hearing this. I launched a fierce slash at him. That was my response. And he too got his cheek cut by me. This made him instantly furious. As a commoner, I dared to scratch his noble face. Having a few tricks up my sleeve, I dared to be so presumptuous. When I heard it, I didn't take it seriously at all. But the sword spirit couldn't stand it when it heard. Come on, this brat just said what I taught you was a petty trick, right? As the saying goes, 30 years on the east side of the river, 30 years on the west side of the river. I never thought that 300 years later, I would be mocked by a brat. I understand this matter. The sword spirit is very angry. The consequences are serious. The sword spirit told me to take a good look at his white teeth when he smiles. The master was humiliated. As his disciple, you need to teach him a good lesson. After the battle ends, if his teeth remain intact in his mouth, then he shall face my harshest punishment. I gripped the wooden sword tightly. It seems knocking out 1 or 2 teeth won't be enough, so I'll strive to knock out a few more. At this moment, Emond had no idea what was happening. He only felt an overwhelming killing intent rising from me. He saw me sprinting towards him, engaged in battle with him. My fierce attacks left him momentarily overwhelmed. The spectators were very surprised at this moment. They didn't expect that young Master Emond would be at a disadvantage. Leon dismissed this notion upon hearing it. Although Leon's momentum was stronger, Emond's balance was not broken by him. At this rate, Leon will be exhausted. He's right. I'm already at my limit. Still not enough to defeat Edmund. If it weren't for his aura, he wouldn't be. My opponent, Edmund, arrogantly told me to stop holding on, to kneel and beg for mercy. I told him to stop dreaming. The one who should be begging for mercy is you. At this moment, my eyes are fixed on him. The lack of strength and speed can be compensated with the eye techniques taught by the sword spirit. If I can use the eye techniques to quickly anticipate the opponent's next move, then I can break the disadvantage. I carefully recall the eye techniques taught by the sword spirit. Be accurate, be quick. The field of vision needs to be wider, until the moving enemy in my sight seemed to move as slowly as if they were in water. The next second, I deflected Edmund's attack. I realized I had done it. I could also see through his attacks. Edmund was very confused at this moment. Could Leon in front of him really not use a spirit weapon? Even Instructor Helmet didn't feel a trace of spirit energy from me, but I still managed to deflect Edmund's attack. Edmund in the arena grinned. I didn't expect to push him to use this move. At this moment, I knew he might use his unique swordsmanship. I didn't know what kind of attack it would be. I couldn't relax my guard for even a second. I watched his every move closely. I saw Edmund charging towards me. Was this move a direct thrust at the enemy? I hurriedly dodged the strike, but in the next second, his attack shifted towards me who had just dodged. I suddenly realized, it was just a feint. Now it's too late for me to dodge. This is the exclusive sword technique of the Bourbon family, piercing stars and moon. Even if I forcefully twist my body, the sword will still pierce my ribs, and his ribs will break, unable to continue fighting. Although my eyes have seen through his attacks, I can no longer dodge. I will be pierced and then miserably defeated. I will never allow this to happen. I gathered all my fury. Just as he was about to strike me, in an instant, I did a backflip to dodge his killer move. He couldn't understand how I did it. Then my attack hit his left shoulder hard. Now his left arm is injured. Lian in the stands told Chloe that compared to his arm injury, failing to succeed with the family's unique sword technique is a more dangerous blow to him. Eamon didn't give up. He thought I must be at my limit now. If he could hold on a bit longer, he could defeat me even with one hand. Surrender, commoner. But what he didn't expect was that I struck the sword from his hand with one blow, then knocked him off his feet with an upward slash. There were even a few teeth mixed in. Then the whole crowd started cheering for me, and then Instructor Helmet raised my hand, declaring once again that victory was mine. After the match, the sword spirit praised me for my excellent work. That guy used all his petty tricks in the end, but still lost to you. Let's see if he dares to talk big in the future. I saw Edmund being helped away. Will getting hit once make him a better person? But he did promise not to bother me anymore if he lost, so I guess there shouldn't be any problems during school. The sword spirit told me, your performance surprised me. Come on, I didn't expect you to grasp the concept of the shackle so quickly. The sword spirit told me, this skill can only be performed by those who have learned spiritual energy. Just now, I used it to evade Eamon's unique sword technique. Although it was only on my thigh, and it wasn't perfectly executed, it was still impressive. This shows, Leon, that you broke through your instincts with willpower. I was puzzled when I heard it, because Zhao Jianling said, if you don't use spiritual energy to accelerate, your body won't hold up. But why am I fine now? The sword spirit told me not to rush, and to rest well for the next few days. I didn't expect that just a moment ago I was fine, and suddenly a wave of pain swept through my lower body. The sword spirit told me, this is the muscle soreness. Before my spiritual energy recovers, I should seal this skill. Otherwise, if I use it again, you will lose your life. In the following days, I became the talk of the Royal Academy. Rumors spread rapidly. Some say I was chosen by a noble family, and consumed an unparalleled elixir. Some say I'm a human weapon secretly trained by the kingdom, just hiding my identity. Others go so far as to say I secretly learned a unique swordsmanship from a master swordsman. I know for sure that it's those guys spreading these rumors to elevate my status. If that were really the case, they wouldn't have come to provoke me back then. Just as I was discussing with the sword spirit, Chloe came up to me. He greeted me warmly, and he looked quite shy. We went to a corner of the academy to chat. I asked him why he suddenly came to find me. At this time, he should be in his alchemy class. Skipped class? He said with a smile. How could I? It's just that the alchemy teacher is sick, so today's class is cancelled. Do you think I'd skip class just to see you? After he finished, a smile appeared on his lips. I didn't notice it. He said I've changed. Haven't you been avoiding him lately? Refusing to talk to him up close like now? And you've been challenging the nobles repeatedly. Do you know how worried Leander and I are about you? Hearing his words, I unconsciously lowered my head. Yeah, how long has it been since we had such a calm conversation? My feelings for him, and the jealousy towards Lian, who could stand by his side, and the inferiority complex from not being special enough, all deeply bound me. Moreover, I felt pain because my efforts were not rewarded, so I blamed the world, and hurt myself, until I encountered the holy sword. At that moment, Chloe's voice pulled me back to reality. He told me that now the school is full of crazy rumors about me. Some even say that you grew so quickly because you found a magic sword. After he finished speaking, seeing I didn't respond, he turned his head to look at me, only to find that I was already in tears. He doesn't know why I would cry, and hurriedly comforts me, asking if the rumors about the demon sword are too outrageous. They are all just idle gossip. Don't take it to heart. I cry and tell him no, the demon sword doesn't know, even though the holy sword's words are very harsh, and his character is bad, but he pulled me out of the bottomless mire. If saving the world is the hero's task, then saving me was the holy sword's task. In that case, as the wielder of the holy sword, I should become not only a warrior who perfectly meets the sword's requirements, but also exceeds its expectations. The sword spirit sensed what I was thinking. Now Leon finally looks like someone worth investing in. For a moment, I felt a chill. Chloe quickly asked what was wrong. Soon after, Chloe got up and left. Before leaving, she told me she thought my mental state was much better than before. Now you give me a feeling of no longer being anxious, able to calmly gaze into the distance. You're very similar to Lian, yet somewhat different. Watching him walk past me, he finally asked if I could talk to Lian. because besides you, he seems to have no other friends in class. I agreed verbally. But when I returned home, I could only tell Chloe I was sorry, because next time it would be me and Leanne's final showdown. At this moment, I am practicing sword moves. But now the wooden sword breaks with just one hit. The new sword move I learned. As long as I can succeed once, my chances of winning will increase significantly. By then, we'll be using practice swords that are harder than wooden ones against Leanne's team. And this move, as my secret weapon, can only be used once. Because in front of a genius like Leanne, if you keep using the same skill, he will definitely counterattack. This time, I need to surpass him not only technically, but also understand him psychologically to win. The sword spirit laughed when he heard this, and asked if I was so concerned about the state Leanne was in a few days ago. I felt it was true when the sword spirit saw through me. Leanne's state of blue display is incredibly strong. He is not only the ultimate spirit holder, but also can use sword energy, and he can also digest external spirit carriers. This is even more impressive than most instructors. Talented individuals can barely reach Leanne's level in their 30s. But he has reached these metrics before adulthood. In comparison, I find that although my speed and strength are not as good as his, but I have a slight physical advantage. He's strong, but I might not lose to him. After listening, he thought my mindset was pretty good. He gave me some advice. He hopes I can use it as a basis to prepare well for the battle with Leanne. Strive for victory. After hearing that, I asked the sword spirit what he would do if I lost to Leanne. What would you do next? The sword spirit said he wouldn't answer my question, because this is also a test for me. Then the sword spirit solemnly told me. He had told me from the beginning, that since I got such a precious opportunity, I must endure a rare and rigorous test. But I think this first test is too difficult. The sword spirit said this could very well be a turning point in my fate. If I can defeat Leanne, the sword spirit will tell me everything. When I listen to him then, I'll surely understand. So, I started my training again at sunset. Soon, night fell. It started pouring rain. Leanne was discussing me with Gibber at that moment. Gilbert thinks Leon can defeat others. He didn't think much of it, but didn't expect Leon to defeat Edmund. When Leanne heard, he asked if he now acknowledges Leon. Because last time the Count said Leon's skill was just average. Yes, and Leon has only been training for 3 years. For real talent. That's not a long time. Moreover, defeating the Earl of Bourbon's second son without having learned spiritual energy shows that Leon's potential is beyond doubt. Leanne told him that Leon came to him today, saying he was ready. Their duel is about to begin. Before it starts, Leanne said there was something very important to entrust to Giborzo. He will definitely defeat Leon, make him his own knight. And now, I have arrived at the duel arena. Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoed through the sky. I felt like someone was hyping me up. The Holy Sword mocked. The warrior of the Holy Sword, staking his future on a duel with another. It's normal for the heavens to be a bit excited. The referee this time is still Instructor Helmut. The difference is there are no spectators this time. This was Leanne's request, because he wanted to focus on the duel. Previously, Emond called many people to watch, in order to embarrass me. But aside from Helmut, there's still one more spectator. While I was wondering who it was, Sword Spirit already guessed it. It should be Chloe. I was shocked when I heard it. I didn't understand why he wanted to watch. Sword Spirit explained to me. Leanne thinks you like. Horn wanted to use this duel to end your thoughts about Chloe. After all, it's not uncommon for a king and his subordinate to fight over a woman. I remembered what Leon had said to me before. If I lost, I would become his vassal. In an instant, I was filled with rage. I was determined to defeat him. Moreover, he wanted to eliminate any potential threats to the relationship between ruler and subject in advance. Such methods are indeed very characteristic of Leon. But his approach didn't consider Chloe's and my feelings at all. Although I can understand his actions, I can't help but sigh. Leanne is indeed a captain, manipulating people's emotions and relationships at will. Even his methods have a superior air. But this aristocratic way of doing things is really annoying. Jianling asked me if I was angry. I told Jianling that goes without saying. To say nothing of, his actions were too much. I must make Leanne, who has strength but lacks respect, take a big fall. After getting to the ring, Leanne said I was late, and I retorted that he was too early. Moreover, I heard you brought a spectator. Where is he? Leanne smiled and told me that he was somewhere out of sight. He was afraid we might break up and use that person as an excuse. I told him to stop talking about other things. Let's start quickly. Leanne then smiled and said to wait. He then took out a pill from a bottle and swallowed it in front of me. I asked him what he ate. He explained to me that it was medicine to suppress spiritual energy. Even though he said he wouldn't use spiritual energy, he might unconsciously release it. If that happens, let alone deciding the outcome, it could very likely lead to a tragedy. After hearing his explanation, I also think he's right. Then our fight is about to begin. This time we're not using wooden swords, but fake swords. Lian's usual playful smile was completely gone. But I wasn't going to lose in focus either. As soon as Instructor Helmet announced the start of the match, our swords immediately clashed together. He flicked my sword away with a single strike, neutralizing my attack. The intense impact made my hand go numb. I originally thought I could gain the upper hand with my strength, but when it came to the actual clash, I realized I might not last 30 seconds. I saw Leon take a deep breath. Then he lunged at me with a thrust. I hurriedly took the blow, only feeling his sword like a whip. Lian's skill level is far superior to Eamon's. Even when I used the sword spirit's eye technique, I couldn't see Lian's movements clearly, because his movements were more elusive than any I've seen. At this moment, I reminded myself to stay calm. I compensated for the missing part with the experience and skills accumulated from previous duels with him. Not far away, Giba watched this battle, in disbelief. Is this really a student duel? Instructor Helmut also sighed, that apart from not using spirit tools, their swordsmanship and combat sense were already better than many current knights. And in the arena, I felt that Lian was so strong, truly a monster. Lian was equally surprised. I'd improved so much without realizing it. Giba looked at Lian. She knew His Highness was exceptionally talented, and outstanding in ability. Then she turned her gaze to Leon. She didn't expect the young man before her to be on par with His Highness. As Lian's attacks grew fiercer, his sword moves became increasingly unpredictable. Just as he launched a deadly strike at me, I could see his form. In an instant, I dodged his fatal blow. Lian was shocked. He thought his deadly strike would surely defeat me, but unexpectedly, I dodged it with ease. My armor was slashed by him. I also managed to cut Leon's hair. As the battle continued, the exhausted Leon looked at me. No wonder he felt that, from the beginning, except for the first move. All my attacks were light. I had intended to turn this duel into a battle of stamina from the start. At this moment, I was also panting heavily. Looks like Lian has noticed my little scheme, gradually wearing down the opponent's stamina step by step, thereby slowly diminishing his advantage. This delaying tactic allows no room for error, and it certainly isn't glamorous. Lian now feels my urgent desire to win, so he decides to weaken my fighting spirit. Otherwise, his brother Leon would never submit. At this moment, he was determined to start gathering strength. Gibbo was shocked to see this scene. His Highness is going to use the royal family's exclusive technique here. This astonished me greatly. This technique can mobilize muscles and blood, allowing the body to exert strength beyond its limits. Although without the aura, the effect is halved. Even half the power is already strong enough. Facing his unique skill, I must utilize my technique to the fullest. I dodged Leon's swift move. Leon was a bit surprised at this moment. Was the effect too weak? Leon actually dodged his move. And although I dodged, my arm was already injured. Is this what's called teleportation? And Lian really didn't use any spiritual energy. At this moment, the voice of the sword spirit echoed in my ear. He really didn't use any spiritual energy just now. His sudden interjection startled me. The sword spirit told me, the human body is far quicker than I imagined. Stronger abilities not only include body-enhancing techniques like teleportation that primarily increase speed, but also techniques that boost strength and endurance. Don't judge human limits by your own experience. But at this moment, Lian had already raised his sword and slashed at me again, glaring at me. I was distracted. This is too careless. I quickly blocked his strike, and teased him about finally using his unique sword technique. And I wasn't being careless at all. Because of the sword spirit's sudden slip, the entire rhythm of the battle was taken over by Lian. At this moment, I thought about what the sword spirit had just told me. The sword spirit wouldn't disturb me for no reason. Lian looked at me, driven to the edge of the ring by his attack. Only 5 or 6 steps away. I would have lost by stepping out of bounds. From the beginning until now, he has been relentlessly attacking Leon. But now Leon's eyes are filled with confidence. Not a trace of panic. Gibbo is in disbelief at what just happened, because with Leon's skill level, he should be completely defenseless against your highness's teleportation. But why is Leon now adopting an offensive stance? In the arena, I originally thought the only way to win was to endure, by maintaining a slight stamina advantage, and waiting for the moment when Leon exhausts himself from teleporting. The worst method I could think of was to pin my hopes on that uncontrollable speed skill. I laughed at myself. Leon didn't understand why I was laughing at this moment, and I held the sword tightly in front of me. At this moment, my eyes were very determined. What I truly needed to believe in was the strength I had accumulated all along. My aura instantly became completely different from before. Leon took this scene in. For the first time, he felt that Leon in front of him seemed so tall. He also lowered his head and smiled. After all, Leon was just that kind of person. No matter what, I must make Leon my subordinate. Then, I prepared to use the Shuani technique again. Gib saw this and thought to himself that this was reckless. Without the support of spiritual energy, using the Shuani technique consecutively far exceeds the limits of what the body can endure. Leon didn't know that with his exceptional talent and my relentless sword training, there is a decisive difference between us. At this moment, Leon and I launched an attack simultaneously. We clashed in an instant. As we passed each other, I swung my sword and broke his. Leon stared incredulously at his broken sword. How could this be? At this moment, the sword spirit praised me, saying that all the times my hands bled while practicing were worth it. I told Lian. The final decisive move was inspired by Eamon's unique sword technique, crescent thrust, and incorporated my own understanding. By staggering the timing of upper and lower body attacks, a variation is created. More importantly, so far, the swords I broke during training and the swords you broke are not the same in quantity. Because you have extraordinary talent, it's easy for you to surpass physical limits. But when it comes to challenging the endurance limits of a sword, you're not as good as I am. If we were using real swords, the results might have been different. At this moment, I stand with my sword. The sword points to the future king. Smiling, I say to Leon, I won this duel. At this moment, Gilbert claps and approaches, saying it's really wonderful. The outcome is decided. The winner of this duel is Mr. Leon. The voice of the sword spirit also echoed in this duel. If you lose, you will become Leon's subordinate. But if you win, what do you want? I remembered what Leon told me then. Whether it's a unique sword technique or a spiritual skill, as long as I want it, no problem at all. But now that I've won, there's really nothing I need. Leon also told me, since he lost, he will definitely keep his promise. I smiled and told him let's talk later, because right now, there's nothing I really want. I'll let you know when I think of something. Leon said it was no problem when he heard. When the young man receives the saint's blessing, what kind of transformation will occur? Just now, although I won the duel with Leon, my body was in excruciating pain due to overexertion. At this moment, a pair of hands appeared in front of me, and immediately cast a level 4 healing spell, Healing Light, on me. Please soothe the wounded. It was Chloe who healed me. In an instant, I felt much lighter. I thanked Chloe for healing me, and appreciated his effort in watching the battle. But he tearfully said he didn't understand me and Leon. So what if you lose? But then he wiped away his tears, and told me, Leon, you've really gotten a lot stronger. Are you planning to leave the academy? I was puzzled as to how Chloe knew about this. He called me a fool. Don't you know me by now? And if someone advises you, you won't listen. You're just good at talking. You've been like this for a long time. Things others think are impossible, you always challenge them, and you always succeed in the end. Isn't that right? But this time, the duel with Leon took a bit longer to win. And I think in terms of difficulty, it's already quite fast. Then Chloe and I laughed out loud. I said goodbye to Chloe. Now that I'm okay, he should go check on the case quickly, and give him a punch while he's at it. Chloe asked me why I'm so mean. Really let him go and punch him, instead of treating him. I told him, although Leon seems fine now, I believe he's probably hiding somewhere. Feeling down from the shock, at this moment, what he needs most is a punch from his girlfriend. That guy will definitely turn today's failure into a motivation to grow. Chloe, I'm counting on you. At this moment, Chloe watched my departing figure. It was only after a while that she hurriedly asked me what I planned to do after leaving the academy. I waved my hand and told her it was a secret for now, then left casually. Chloe seemed a bit sad after seeing me go. Then she clasped her hands in front of her, silently praying for her friend. The sword spirit saw this and told me that it was unexpected to see an atheist magician praying for someone else. I told the sword spirit, Chloe is a very good girl. It seems I used to long to be someone special. I trained desperately just to stand proudly beside them. However, the gap in status and talent was insurmountable. In front of these two special people, I was tormented by a deep sense of inferiority for many years. Until that moment, I encountered the Holy Sword. It cut off the inferiority complex rooted deep in my heart. It freed me from the shadows they cast over me. But from today onwards, I will become a warrior. Is there anyone more special than a warrior in this world? The sword spirit couldn't help but mock me after hearing this. Such a cliched statement. I asked the sword spirit if it was disappointed in me. The sword spirit replied, how could it be? What's wrong with yearning for wealth and glory? What's wrong with pursuing fame and fortune? Desire is the pillar of human life. It is also the driving force that compels humans to pursue their dreams, as long as you don't use the wrong methods. Desire is the powerful force that proves you were born human. So come on, that's why I chose you. Actually, the one who should have become a warrior wasn't you. It was the one called Leon. Hearing the sword spirit's words, I was very surprised. The one the holy sword was originally meant to choose was Leon. The sword spirit told me, he is the legitimate son of the Cloyd royal family, the sword that will restore the fallen empire to glory. A person named Lian Cloyd, who was chosen as the hero 150 years ago. I was incredibly surprised to hear this. I marveled at how Lian has the perfect protagonist's destiny. According to what the sword spirit said, does that mean I took the honor that should have belonged to the protagonist Lian? At that moment, I suddenly realized, it's because of this. The sword spirit said this duel was also a test for me. The sword spirit said that's right. And I did very well. A warrior shouldn't be determined by prophecies or divine realms. A warrior should forge their future with their own strength and will. That guy named Lian. That's where the problem lies. Seeing my somewhat sad face, Jianlin probably thinks I took away Leon's plan, and feels guilty about it. I waved my hand and told him, how could that be? Leon has much more than I do. For someone who was born with everything, why should I feel guilty? Ironically, you possessed so much, yet still lost to someone like me, who had nothing. That's what I call a miscalculation, and it was you who chose me. The great hero Rodley's soul sword, A-side, chose me based on its judgment. Of course, I must meet your expectations. Hearing this, the sword spirit smiled with relief. The next day, I applied to withdraw from the academy. Instructor Helmut felt regretful, and wrote me a recommendation letter in place of a diploma. The confrontation between me and Eamon's group excited everyone in both the civilian and noble classes, bringing a new atmosphere to the academy, and putting everyone on a path of rigorous training. Looking at the academy receding into the distance, I realized I would never return here again. Then let's set off, heading to the free city of Brine where adventurers gather. Since leaving the academy, we've been camping in the forest. There are not only massive eagles hunting here, but also occasional goblin raids. These have given me the opportunity to train again, and gradually get used to wielding the holy sword. After some time, finally, I reached the destination I wanted to go to, Blaine. After half a month at the academy, I can finally sleep in a bed. The sword spirit told me it took a week longer to leave this forest than he expected. The goblins that gave you so much trouble at the beginning of this forest, you can now kill them in 10 seconds. It's all thanks to the steps I taught you in the forest. I nodded in agreement to the sword spirit's words. Indeed, I have become stronger compared to before entering the forest. This makes me want to start fighting monsters tomorrow. The sword spirit saw my determination, and told me to be patient for now, because my vessel is still in the shaping stage. And exterminating monsters to gain power is the process of filling the vessel. So whatever you add to an unshaped vessel, it will end up being wasted meaninglessly. I took the sword spirit's words to heart. Then, together with the sword spirit, we arrived at Brian. After smoothly passing through the city gate, I couldn't help but sigh. The student ID from the academy is actually quite credible, but the sword spirit didn't agree, saying that I'm inexperienced. Coming to such a small village, and getting so excited, I was shocked by what the sword spirit said. Such a bustling city, yet the sword spirit called it a small village. He told me that cities of this scale had existed in dozens 300 years ago. Although this place isn't very small, it definitely can't be considered large either. And compared to its scale, the structure of this city is a complete mess. The public security must not be very good either. It seems I really haven't seen much of the world. Jianlin asked me where I was planning to go. I told Jianlin I wanted to go to the guild first. Although there's no need to rush, I still think it's better to register early. I want to become an adventurer. Although being a mercenary is also good, compared to an adventurer, a mercenary's activities are more limited, and I don't want to get involved in the noble's conflicts of interest. Most importantly, to fully utilize a warrior's unique power, becoming an adventurer who specializes in taking monster hunting commissions is the best choice. The sword spirit nodded in agreement when it heard my words. After all, the seal on the holy sword will take some time to be lifted. I believe in the forest. I not only received training, but also learned a lot about the holy sword from the sword spirit. Because the holy sword arrived a year earlier than the divine realm, most of its abilities were sealed. Originally, the holy sword would make the wielder's body nearly invincible, and greatly enhance their physical functions, inflicting lethal damage to all monsters, even enhancing aura to divine power, greatly amplifying the strength. Therefore, without an aura, if I want to wield the holy sword freely, I must further enhance my own power. Soon, I brought the sword spirit to the guild, and successfully registered as an adventurer, because of the proof of enrollment from the Royal Academy and Helmut's recommendation letter. So the process was very quick, and the initial adventurer rank is D. I curiously asked the lady in front of me, what privileges and tasks do D-rank adventurers have? She told me, D-rank adventurers don't have to do chores, and can take on substantial tasks based on recommendations. As long as I accumulate some more achievements, I can quickly rise to C rank. But if I want to become a B rank with some strength and the ability to use spirit weapons, or an S rank in the guild's main force, it will still take a long time. Hearing his explanation, I didn't expect that spirit weapons are the minimum requirement to reach B rank. In other words, I not only need to circulate the spiritual energy within my body, but also control it to form spiritual weapons outside my body, and use them to split rocks and tear steel. And people with this kind of power are only at B level. So just how strong are those at the A class level? At this moment, the sword spirit's words pulled me back to reality. He said this organization is more interesting than he imagined. There are actually many non-human members inside. I turned to look at the sword spirit. What I saw were a few powerful looking guys. There were fierce orcs, and some elves. The sword spirit exclaimed, interesting. Werewolf elves, and half-elves. The guys who hated each other 300 years ago, have now united. I suddenly felt that the person who founded this organization was quite impressive. The lady at the front desk told me that the registration procedures were all completed. To become a formal adventurer, you must first accept a commission free of charge. This left me speechless. Looks like I have to work for free. The young lady told me, becoming an adventurer means being recognized by the guild, so I must pay the corresponding price. The sword spirit comforted me as I wore a look of great resentment. Not everything in the world is easy, but the holy sword and the demon sword fused into the sword of heaven and earth for a boy, allowing him to comprehend the shadow of the king's sword, then let him stand proudly in the entire world. Is it difficult? After I just joined the guild, I accepted my first unpaid task, which was to clean the sewers. There were rats with dragon horns. I fought hard with a tough demeanor. The sword spirit told me, the sword techniques I practiced before were meant to fight people. To break through this limitation, I can only keep practicing slashing, whether it's birds or beasts. Defeating enemies of all kinds is the best training for me, and these rats with legs are the evolved ones. They have special powers. The sword spirit tells me to be careful, especially with the big rat in front of me. The larger or more numerous the feet are, the more dangerous the opponent's abilities. I asked the sword spirit how to identify what abilities they possess. He told me, getting attacked once directly is a good way. Unfortunately, the ability of the mouse in front of me isn't very powerful. Seeing my puzzled look, the sword spirit explained, the abilities of this rat are curse type. Hearing this, I, who possessed the holy sword, slowly began to understand. Facing the ferocious attacks of the mutated rat, sure enough, it dissipated as soon as it reached the holy sword. This made the rat question its existence, and I smiled. Zash told the rat. Today he hit a brick wall. Then, driven by greed, I jumped up with my sword. Hurry up and hand over the foot. 10 minutes later, I slapped a sack on the guild's reception desk. When opened, it was full of rat tails. The receptionist weighed it. It was a full 46 pounds. The onlookers felt incredibly amazed, and started speculating that this young man had dealt with at least 200 rat men. At this moment, I took out another sack. I told the receptionist that these were the feet of rat men. Caught over 200 rat men, but only 3 or 4 had feet. I wonder if this can be sold. The young lady looked at me like I was a monster. She told me it could be sold. Then after some calculations, she gave me 13 silver coins, and 50 copper coins. That was more than I expected. The young lady told me, ratmen's feet are expensive, and in high demand. Also, you are the first to harvest so many. On your first commission, it's really surprising. Just taking down ordinary rat men is impressive. Hearing the praise from the lady, I scratched my head. Her face turned red. The young lady also mentioned she didn't expect me to capture 4 evolved insects. I didn't expect someone so young to have such a high level of spiritual cultivation. It's truly amazing. Mr. Leon, congratulations. From this moment on, you are officially an Earth-level adventurer in our guild. The young lady took out a bronze medal. The pattern on it symbolizes the free city of Brine, and I can use it anywhere. The young lady told me, but when the holder's rank is below B level, when accepting commissions at other branches, the holder does not have priority selection. This rule is to prevent people from cherry-picking high-reward commissions. I held the bronze medal in my hand. At this moment I thought, with it, it proves I'm no longer a student of the academy, but an adventurer. Miss Leon thoughtfully said if there's any special request I have, I can tell her, though her authority is limited, but I can still help a little. Thank you, miss. Then I walked out of the guild's door. I was full of expectations for the future. The sword spirit told me, the receptionist might have mistaken you for a paladin, because how could anyone choose a task that's unprofitable, unrewarding, and tiring? There have long been rumors that paladins hide their identities before taking office, and practice asceticism, but from a certain perspective, a warrior is also a kind of paladin, so he isn't completely wrong to think you're a paladin, but if he finds out the truth later, he'll definitely faint. I said I couldn't tell him the truth, and this receptionist in charge of welcoming warriors might become a legend in the Adventurers Guild someday. Maybe I could live comfortably for a lifetime just by writing my autobiography. Think about it carefully. There's really no difference between this and ascetic practice. I can both train myself and help others. Anyway, I'll be staying in brine for a while. This is better than arousing suspicion. At least I'll stay here until I reach B level. But how long does it take to reach B level? At this moment, the sword spirit heard my words, and his face darkened. He angrily rebuked me, saying it only takes 100 days to reach B level. Then the sword spirit started trembling with anger. Originally, he planned to teach me slowly over 6 months, but now it seems he can't. He can't tolerate it. Although it looks like training, his successor is actually catching rats in the sewers, just to level up. It's really shameful, but I think it's a good deal. When the strongest holy sword and the strongest demon sword are both unsealed, and fused to save a dying boy. What kind of being can withstand his strike? But now the holy sword is unhappy with me catching rats in the sewer, and wants me to get stronger quickly, at least strong enough to take down a dragon. But I think the sword spirit's demands are too high, because dragons are very powerful, way stronger than rat men by countless levels. And the sword spirit told me, I've already mastered the basics of rock magic and footwork. You just need more practice. It's all about skillful application. Moreover, the unique ability of the warriors is to absorb and accumulate power after defeating monsters. And indeed, after eliminating monsters, I felt it as the sword spirit taught me. Previously, I only knew that the secrets of prestigious families had remarkable effects on spiritual energy cultivation. But the sword spirit's words shattered my understanding. Everyone can absorb the power of monsters, convert it into spiritual energy. But in the past, the nobility and royalty concealed this to secure their privileges. Everyone who knew this secret is dead. So only the Holy Sword knows this. That's why, after learning this, I was filled with determination to exterminate monsters. But the sword spirit told me that even capturing 10,000 rats wouldn't compare to a single dragon. So he asked me to hunt stronger creatures once I had mastered my skills. Strive to slay the dragon as soon as possible. But when I heard this, I thought the sword spirit was joking with me. However, the sword spirit was very angry and told me, do you think this holy sword is a cleaner? How can you use it to purify the air and wash clothes? Hearing this, I realized that every time I came out of the sewer, I was filthy all over. I had the sword spirit use its purification ability to clean me up. It seems that during this time, it accumulated quite a bit of resentment. But I don't understand why the sword spirit wants me to slay the dragon so much. It turns out the sword spirit wants to take me to the Titan Mountains afterwards. But even dragons don't dare to approach that place. And it's the land ruled by the King of Giants. Countless kingdoms have tried to conquer this demonic realm in the past but failed. Why do we still need to go there? The sword spirit told me, there must be something there that can help me. Moreover, its true form was left in this place. It also lost its memory. So the sword spirit doesn't know exactly what can help me either. Let's set our first goal to reach there within 6 months. I thought for a moment. And still don't know what this thing is. Do we really need to go to such a dangerous place? The sword spirit reassures me. After all, it's not a vacation. It will guide me in my training along the way. By then, your abilities will be enough to protect yourself. Trust me, I am the Holy Sword. Of course, I believe him, because the Holy Sword has never made a mistake. When the boy successfully captured 10,000 beastmen rats, he gained the recognition of adventurers, and earned the title of cat. But the receptionist lady complained that his catch was getting smaller and smaller. This can't be helped. After all, the beastmen rats that actively provoked him became fewer. Seeing him was really like rats seeing a cat. So I asked the receptionist to find me some other commissions. Unexpectedly, she immediately took out a stack of tasks and laid them out. She confidently told me that she always knew this day would come, so she had carefully selected 4 commissions for me. The sword spirit and I examined the task list. The most worn-out commission caught my attention. The sword spirit told me it must be a task no one wanted to take, so it was never updated. Then I picked it up and decided to choose this one myself. Eliminate 10 slimes. They inhabit the sewers near the city walls, because they eat the ingredients. If not eliminated, it could very likely reduce the durability of the city walls. Moreover, the client for this task is the captain of Brain's Guard. So I brought the commission letter to the guards to inquire. But this team member was puzzled when he heard about the task of eliminating 10 slimes. He said they never applied for it at all. At this moment, a voice came from behind me asking if I was that cat, the rookie adventurer who cleaned up the sewer rats. It turned out to be the captain of the guards. I awkwardly told him it was indeed me. I didn't expect him to praise me, hoping there would be more adventurers like me. How can those who only know to seek profit and avoid harm be worthy of being adventurers? After confirming that there indeed was a task to eliminate 10 slimes, the captain smiled and told me that after I completed the task seriously, they will give me some extra reward. When I arrived at the place where 10 slimes appeared, I found that although it wasn't sewer cleaning work, the ground here was very slippery. If you're not careful with your steps, it's easy to lose balance. But the sword spirit said this place is perfect for me to practice my footwork. Just then, I found 3 rock slimes in the corner. I was just about to attack them. The sword spirit reminded me to wait. Come on, use your eye technique. If they're just ordinary slimes, adventurers wouldn't keep rejecting the quest. I had just finished speaking when the sword spirit said I was right. A stone suddenly appeared in front of my face. I hastily dodged it. The stone smashed the wall behind me. I had no idea where the stone came from. The sword spirit warned me to be careful. A slime had appeared right in front of me. I raised my holy sword and struck it down mercilessly. But the soft slime was completely unscathed and bounced back my bow as if I was cutting into cotton. That's when I realized. No wonder they are called 10 slimes. At this moment, the sword spirit taught me that the most representative weakness of a slime is its core. To defeat it, you must find a way to destroy its core. So, in this way, no matter what strange abilities the slime has, it will be completely annihilated. But the sword spirit told me that these stone slimes are full of rocks inside. It's like armor protecting their core. No wonder no one messes with these troublesome guys. Ordinary slimes may be resilient, but the most feared thing is hostility, and a rock slime uses its own stones to effectively make up for this weakness. That is to say, using cold weapons against them is not easy. At this moment, the rock slime launched an attack on me. Countless stones came at me overwhelming. I hurriedly blocked these attacks, then immediately dodged backward. The rain gradually approached. The slime distanced itself, but many stones still hit my body. The sword spirit saw my miserable state and scolded me, asking if I thought I couldn't dodge all the attacks. So I chose to focus on defending my vital points. So what did you analyze using the rock method just now? I told sword spirit. The gap between the rocks is 5 meters. There is a slight time difference with each rock launched during the attack. If we can seize this opportunity, then we should be able to make 1 or 2 attacks. But the problem is trying to break through the slime's defense. We just need to dodge the flying rocks and then attack his vulnerable core. At this moment, I had a sudden inspiration. Why rush to attack? I can observe him carefully. When the rocks in his body scatter, I can directly use the holy sword to stab his core. But the key is the rocks are constantly moving. Hitting it is even harder. But crisis is also opportunity. The moment the 10 slimes open their mouths to launch stones, the mucus inside them should stop flowing. At this moment, the sword spirit adds that with my current strength, this is the only chance to destroy its core. Only then did I understand. Ever since I took on this task, the sword spirit had already considered everything. So, I raised my sword, ready to face my new challenge. Then, I charged towards the 10 slimes. I used my eye technique to carefully observe their movements, and successfully seized the opportunity to pierce through one slime. I understood that even a 1-second error would result in me getting hurt. Moreover, these slimes perceive their surroundings through vibrations. The sword spirit told me to reduce the ground's reaction force when I move. After all, with your current skill level, you can definitely do it. I understand what the sword spirit said. As long as I use my footwork, I can definitely do it. But at this moment, my proud footwork stepped on this slippery ground, and I immediately slipped, fiercely slammed into the ground. I quickly gritted my teeth and got up, continued to charge and move on this ground, constantly dodging the slime's rock attacks, and seized the opportunity to pierce it with a sword. Just like that, I cleared all the slimes. At this moment, the sword spirit whispered in my ear, saying, although you didn't mean to do it, you seem to have succeeded. I don't understand why the sword spirit would say that. He explained to me, the move I just used is part of the second level footwork. Maintaining balance on flat ground is just the basic skill of footwork. If the ground is muddy, you have to adapt accordingly. Even on ice or a hot iron plate, your steps should remain steady. This is second level footwork. Just now, you were caught off guard by the gate restriction. You acted hastily. But in actual combat, using your body directly to perceive and learn is more effective than usual practice. So, the sword spirit told me that once I master the steps here, I should stop avoiding attacks. I don't understand why I shouldn't avoid them. After all, getting hit is very painful. But the sword spirit said that getting hit by a stone won't kill me. It taught me how to reduce the pain when getting hit, so I can apply it in real combat later. Block if I can. If I can't, endure it. It even told me not to poke slimes. I could shorten the time again. You can totally go chop them. For dealing with less than 2 rocks, slimes are forbidden to be stabbed with swords. And I angrily retorted to the sword spirit, aren't you a magic sword? Such unreasonable demands might as well let me die. And the sword spirit also angrily told me, it's all for your own good. If you get used to playing comfortably, you'll suffer later. After fighting against 10 slimes for over 10 days, I finally eliminated all the slimes here, under the astonished gaze of the city guard, successfully completing a task that no one else took on. The holy sword told me that through fighting slimes, I've accumulated quite a bit of power, and have 1 foot in the realm of spiritual energy. Moreover, I've progressed much faster than he imagined. That's because those monsters are inherently life forms based on magic. Defeating them surely allowed me to absorb a lot of power. Now I have the necessary conditions to start cultivating spiritual energy. But the sword spirit told me that starting now is already too late. Let me mentally prepare myself. Because noble children like Lian receive meridian cleansing rituals at birth, and take various elixirs to nourish their bodies, laying a foundation for future spiritual cultivation. But for someone like me, who has never undergone these rituals, cultivating spiritual energy was impossible. Moreover, according to the Holy Sword, if one uses impure plants to forcibly cleanse blocked meridians after reaching adulthood, those who are baptized often cannot withstand it, and end up exploding to death. When I heard this news, I was instantly terrified. The Holy Sword reassured me, saying it has absorbed enough magic during this period. More importantly, I have the Holy Sword here. I will use its power to protect all 108 meridians in your body. Even if you get injured, you can be healed immediately. But even so, Leon, you still have to endure pain that ordinary people can't bear. If you can't withstand the baptism process, losing consciousness means failure. The success of the baptism depends entirely on your willpower. Hearing the sword spirit's words, there was no hesitation in my eyes, and let the sword spirit begin my baptism. In the next second, 10 swords of light instantly condensed around the sword spirit. I looked at these light swords that seemed to pierce through everything. I felt a bit panicked. Before I could react, these light swords instantly came at me. They pierced straight into my back. The pain from the first one alone was unbearable, even spitting blood. In pain, I grit my teeth, trembling, telling myself to hold on. But the next second, all the lightsabers fell again, all pierced into my body. I gritted my teeth and endured, didn't even let out a cry. The sword spirit beside me looked at me, somewhat incredulous. Didn't expect Leon could withstand 10 lightsabers. At this moment, the sword spirit looked out the window, thinking to himself, with Leon's aura awakening, the presence of those hidden in this city has become more apparent. After a while, I successfully received the baptism. All 108 of my meridians were completely unblocked. I felt the spiritual energy. It was circulating within me, making me feel like I had endless strength. Now, besides my physical strength, I also had a bag filled with power. At this moment, I felt invincible. The sword spirit told me that all of this is my illusion. The sword spirit originally thought I could withstand at most 5 swords. He told me that although the baptism was successful, it only cleared the main meridians in my body. If I want to truly use spiritual energy, I still need to train and cleanse my meridians. Right now, you're just a rookie with a bit more strength. You still have a long way to go. The sword spirit is right. Although my physical strength hasn't changed, I can clearly feel my body being enveloped by an aura. It's as if my nervous system extends outside my body. The sword spirit explained to me that this is the sense of aura. You need to concentrate. Then you can use spiritual energy to sense your surroundings. Also, don't get too excited. First, understand the characteristics of spiritual energy. It's similar to chakra. Common attributes are the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. But your attribute is not among the 5 elements. Even the sword spirit finds it unbelievable. The spiritual attribute I acquired is the same as the Holy Sword's aura. Seeing my astonished look, he told me the awakened spiritual attribute is the sun, which means light and heat. It's the top attribute representing light and justice. This made me very happy, because my spiritual attribute is the same as the legendary being. The sword spirit told me not to get excited yet. Now let's summarize. Then he snapped his fingers at me. With a swish, a status window appeared in front of me. Looking at the increasing data, there was a significant change compared to last time. And why did my aura level reach 3 just after entry? The sword spirit explained that it was because I had already mastered the acceleration skill before absorbing the aura. Not only that, you can also use spiritual perception to reach this level. It's certainly not first or second level. After unblocking all 108 meridians in your body, your 5 grains have reached the second stage. Now it's time to teach you the swordsmanship you've been lacking. I was overjoyed when I heard this. Is the sword spirit real? I've been waiting for this day for a long time. I've always wanted to learn the Holy Sword's techniques. So, I eagerly asked the sword spirit to start teaching me right away. However, the sword spirit told me not to get excited too soon. Then he pointed behind me and said there are enemies in this city. I was quite surprised to hear that. The sword spirit can sense their presence. And these enemies are the warrior's nemesis. They want to offer this world to those from another dimension. They are a group of greedy traitors. No matter the era, there are always such loathsome parasites. The sword spirit became extremely angry after speaking. But when I asked who these people were, when asked for their names, the sword spirit's eyes flared with anger, and it shouted that these people don't deserve names. They only deserve to be called evil. I was influenced by the sword spirit's emotions. and clenched my fists for a moment. But the sword spirit reminded me that with my current strength, I still couldn't defeat them. But I was not discouraged at all. As long as I keep improving myself, these Evilders will eventually be trampled by warriors. After hearing what I said, the sword spirit gave me a deep look, then told me that these guys wouldn't cause trouble for now. But that doesn't mean we can let our guard down. The sword spirit guessed they would take action in a few months. Defeating monsters is just a stepping stone to make you stronger. Eradicating evil is the true fate of a hero. From now on, Leon, you must step in and undergo the baptism of blood and hatred. Become a true hero. So the next day, I went to the guild. The receptionist said she hadn't seen me for several days. A bit worried, but my resolute gaze reassured him. I've transformed over these few days. He sized me up. Blushing, he said he could see it. Then he took out a badge and congratulated me on advancing to C rank. Looking at the shiny gold badge in his hand, I was puzzled after receiving it. Can I be promoted to Class C without additional review? The young lady told me it was originally required, but in the quests to exterminate the rat men and 10 slimes. Mr. Leon, you received quite a high evaluation, and the gratitude of the Lord and the guard captain. Sexual examination is no longer needed. I stared at the badge carefully, thinking that I was promoted to C rank after completing just 2 commissions. At this moment, the sword spirit told me, this is not a bad thing because after upgrading, more commissions will be available. This will make investigating evil more convenient. Upon hearing this, I felt full of fighting spirit. Is that so? Then let's set off immediately. We'll catch them all in one go. To eliminate the enemies of the Holy Sword, I took on the guild's most dangerous mission. That is to destroy the activated armor of the Shatins, because the old armor there was suddenly corrupted by a mysterious force, and it started to move. It even mistook house viewers for a demolition team. Fearless attacks from them left the house owner helpless, and had to ask the guild for help. I think with the help of my holy sword, it will be easy to eliminate these evils. Besides, this task is near the slums. I can use this assignment as an excuse to gather information in the slums. Even if they are incredibly powerful, they wouldn't dare challenge the guild. If they bully the lower-ranking members of the guild, not to mention the S-rank monsters, just the presence of A and B-rank members would easily handle them. But to be safe, I had the receptionist tell me the location of the brain cult. When the receptionist heard this, a look of horror. Could it be that Leon is really going there? This made him more certain that Leon was a paladin, and during their penance, they must never use the Order's resources for any assistance, unless they encounter enemies of the Order. Those are blasphemers of the goddess, known as heretics. The Order's attack on them was devastating. No matter how large their forces were, no matter their background, they would be wiped out. Only when encountering these people would the Holy Order's elite Iron Holy Knights be deployed. The receptionist tremblingly revealed the location of the Leon Legion. He reacted only after Leon left. We should come because the enemies of the Sacred Order have appeared. We need to report to the higher-ups immediately. The guild must not sit idly by. After leaving the guild, the sword spirit praised my quick thinking, because this is the most effective way. After all, I'm not a real paladin, and my level is only C. Even if we warn them, the guild won't care. But that's exactly my plan. The receptionist will definitely report to the guild, and they will take action. If they don't have a seat, they'll have to bring the Holy Sword to the Order. But the Holy Sword is the last resort. I wouldn't do it unless absolutely necessary. Besides, the seal on the Holy Sword hasn't been lifted yet, and I need to improve my strength to be worthy of being the Holy Sword's master. At this moment, the sword spirit suddenly told me about the animated armor. It's a rare natural phenomenon. When someone infuses armor with magic spells and evil thoughts, it can come to life. They have no subjective consciousness. They are just scrap metal that only knows to repel intruders. After hearing that, I asked the sword spirit if the magician could cast a dispel magic spell to deal with them. But the sword spirit told me that using magic is ineffective, because it can only scatter them, not completely eliminate them. So the magician is completely useless. I don't understand what's so great about this junk. But Lin reminded me, if this task were so easy, it would have been completed long ago. Moreover, they have a strong regeneration ability. Even if you smash them to pieces, they can fully recover within 10 minutes. Many adventurers' weapons lost all their durability. I had no choice but to retreat. After explaining to me, the sword spirit smiled at me. He wanted to test if I could see the true power of the animated armor. Although I couldn't answer immediately, I believed that once we got there, all the mysteries would be revealed. Soon, the sword spirit and I arrived at the slums. The environment here is completely different from what I imagined. At the same time, I also found that since I set foot here, I've had a very unpleasant feeling. I asked the sword spirit if it sensed anyone following us. The sword spirit explained that no one was following us. This feeling is due to the ability to sense spiritual energy, because solar spiritual energy is very sensitive to malice. At the same time, you look weak and fragile, making some third-rate people think you are an easy target to bully. When I entered the abandoned house, it was filled with a sinister and eerie atmosphere. I conjured the spirit of the Holy Sword, thinking it was time for him to appear, but I ended up just using him to light the way. This made the sword spirit very upset. He told me to remember to bring a torch next time. At that moment, the sound of clanking armor suddenly echoed through the corridor. The sword spirit said it seems there really is living armor. I looked intently. Sure enough, in the darkness, there was armor holding a sword, staring at us menacingly. This was my first encounter with such a weapon. It could swing and slash at enemies. It could also thrust forward to pierce enemies. It could even chop downward. Most importantly, its length even exceeded 2 meters. If I want to hit him, I need to take a step or two forward, but he can attack me directly with his spear. However, the animated armor in front of me doesn't seem that intelligent. It suddenly leapt up and swung down at me. I caught his attack, thinking that now his advantage is nullified. Besides, it's only a hollow armor weighing 20 to 30 jin. No matter how powerful it is, it can't win. Then I used 3 strikes on the animated armor. Immediately, it turned into scrap and scattered all over the ground. The sword spirit asked me if I had used acceleration just now, except for the sword being deflected by the acceleration, causing the moves to be scattered. Everything else was pretty good. Hearing the sword spirit's praise, I say with a bit of pride, the acceleration effect currently lasts only a few seconds, but thanks to the chi in my body, I can now use acceleration more skillfully than before. Looking at the scattered armor on the ground, I think of what the mission book said. Even if you smash them, they will still restore themselves. But I didn't find its regenerative ability that impressive. Could someone have submitted a false report? If the Union discovers this, it would be considered a second-degree crime. If someone dies because of this, the person who submitted the false report would be wanted by the Union. But the current situation makes me question the accuracy of the information. And even if this thing is hard to deal with, as long as we organize a decent team, we can still easily handle them. The sword spirit couldn't figure out the reason either. He guessed it might be due to differences in the armored units. I think the sword spirit makes sense too. I was considering catching a few more to verify the theory, but at that moment, the sword spirit told me not to bother, because now they have come over. I saw 5 animated armors emerge from the darkness. I hurriedly asked the sword spirit to shine a bit brighter, because it's too far to see clearly. Then the holy sword in my hand emitted a dazzling light again. In an instant, it became like a small sun. I watched the change in the holy sword. Its entire body emitted a golden light. Although dazzling, it is not glaring, and it is very gentle. At this moment, a series of screams came. The sword spirit and I looked towards the sound. The animated armor was painfully covering its eyes and howling. What the heck? What's going on? I was utterly confused at this moment. I had no idea what was happening. Then these armors started attacking me together. As the battle continued, I didn't expect these mindless creatures to launch a relay attack on me. Their moves were very obvious. I could see through them instantly. Their moves are quite perfect. But this level of strength is nothing to me. After all, repetitive attack patterns will eventually fail. How could such attacks scare me? How could they stop me? Warriors, come on. Right now. The sword spirit stopped me. I jumped back to distance myself from them, and quickly asked the sword spirit what was going on. The sword spirit told me, these guys are not living armors. Come on, take a good look with your eyes. You should be able to see now. Hearing the sword spirit's words, I looked closely. I didn't expect strange smoke to be hidden inside these armors. It turned out to be the legendary death chi. I gripped the holy sword tightly. As a warrior, I can't possibly sit idly by in the face of such evil. Moreover, I need to duel with stronger enemies here, to gain experience, and to grow. After a brief clash, all the armor was cut down by me. The sword spirit asked if I purposely got surrounded by these guys, and then took them all out at once, because I was afraid of blind spots. I told the sword spirit, yes, because when the enemies are within my field of vision, my eye technique is nearly invincible, but human vision has its limits. My back is my blind spot. I can't fight with my back against the wall. The sword spirit said I was right to do this. Only third-rate talent is controlled by conditions. Second-rate talent adapts to conditions. Only those who turn unfavorable conditions into strength are first-rate talent. Hearing the sword spirit's words, I also felt relieved. Then I left the abandoned house with him. If you want to survive in the slums, you need to overcome various difficulties. This place is more dangerous than the sewers and tunnels. You're likely to encounter traps and obstacles set maliciously by others. Moreover, enemies are used to ambushing and assassinations. They will definitely lie in ambush in blind spots. I have always relied on my own arcane abilities, but soon, I might encounter situations that arcane abilities cannot solve. Therefore, I must find a way to overcome these. However, what I didn't know was that the underground emperor of Bryan City, Khan, was already aware of my existence. Because of catching rats and eliminating slimes, people have given me the title of cleaner. This successfully caught the attention of his subordinates, and he wanted to use me, a janitor, to do some things at this time. Because there were a lot of people missing in his territory, he reported it to the Union and the Order. Because he knew these people couldn't cooperate or be used. Whether they were cult followers or foreign spy units, they couldn't be involved with these people. Otherwise, when the Order settles accounts, everyone will be doomed. Even if only one record of illegal trade remains, the Holy Iron Chain Knights of the Church will pursue them to the ends of the earth. At that time, I was practicing the swordsmanship taught by the Holy Sword. But this spiritual energy is really hard to control. After just 3 seconds, it caused my whole body to ache and kneel on the ground. The sword spirit asked me if I felt the flow of spiritual energy in my body. It praised my efforts, saying I kept up well with its training pace. I was sitting on the ground, gasping for breath. Every time I push through, it feels like a rebirth, but I never feel like I've made much progress. The sword spirit said it would show me. He snapped his fingers. In an instant, my status window appeared before me. Unbelievable. My sword mastery had reached the ultimate aura. Last time you checked, I was still a beginner. Now, I've already reached the lower level. The sword spirit told me my growth is really fast. It's normal to have such progress under his guidance. But I'm puzzled why the sword spirit's swordsmanship teachings weren't written down. I suddenly saw him lose patience. He shouted at me loudly, "You haven't even mastered the first move of swordsmanship. How do you have the face to let him write it down?" The sword spirit taught me a unique set of swordsmanship. That's the sword control technique with a total of 7 moves. As long as I can continuously learn and execute these 7 moves, I can reach the level of a sword saint. I'm very confident in mastering this swordsmanship, especially with the invincible holy sword. No matter what kind of opponent, I can fight them. The sword spirit, seeing my fighting spirit, told me I need at least master level skills. Otherwise, learning it would be pointless. Faced with the cold reality from Sacred Sword Cliff, I didn't feel discouraged, because it's impossible to dominate the slums in a short time. This swordsmanship is my trump card. Just when I was about to continue practicing swordsmanship, the sword spirit told me to stop for the day. I didn't understand why he told me to stop. It turned out there were a few uninvited guests under the window. I don't know when they came. The sword spirit and I looked over. A few shady looking people. They came with bad intentions. But these people didn't have magic contracts on them. Their strength seems pretty average. But from their attire, you can tell they must be lackeys from some gang. I figured they weren't here to fight me. So I went straight downstairs to meet them. They said they were sent by their superiors to find me. Just as I was wondering who it could be, these guys started introducing themselves, while striking extremely bizarre poses. These members of Bostad are somewhat heavy. I noticed this during intelligence gathering before. This gang is the strongest among the 3 major forces in the slums. Their boss is even called the Underground Emperor of the Slums. The spirited guy in front of me pointed at me, told me to go with him, and I wasn't the least bit angry. I let them lead the way. They originally thought it would take some effort to take me away, but they didn't expect me to agree so readily. They didn't know I saw this as an opportunity to understand the slums better. After all, the forces here are deeply entrenched. If I start with the strongest here, I can quickly grasp the hidden information of the slums. So I followed them to their base camp. I understood they must have heard the rumors about me, because there was no way to delegate some tricky tasks to the craftsmen. They planned to hand them over to me, but it's still too early to determine who is using whom. At that moment, while passing a corner at an intersection, a civilian accidentally bumped into a henchman. The frightened civilian immediately said, "Sorry," 3 times. But what I didn't expect was, this man started kicking and punching the fallen civilian. Seeing them bully others so wantonly, I was about to act. The sword spirit told me to stay calm, and reminded me to control my emotions. If I showed the same killing intent in front of the Underground Emperor caking, I would definitely ruin everything. So, I adjusted my mindset. Tell the sword spirit that I will be careful next. Be cautious, we will soon arrive at their base. This place is very messy. Garbage is everywhere. No one cleans it, and there are bloodstains all over the corners. It seems they intentionally left it this way, to give me a warning. Just at this moment, a deep voice sounded behind me. "Are you the sweeper?" This voice made me feel a sense of danger, so I immediately drew the sword from my waist, and swung it towards the person behind me, but he easily blocked my attack, and laughed, saying the title of sweeper doesn't seem to suit me at all. Then he brushed aside the sword was lifted, and a punch came toward me. I saw the moment he threw the punch, and felt the signal of death, but he stopped right before hitting my face. The mere force of his punch raised a 5-meter cloud of dust behind me, and at that moment, blood gushed from my nose. I understood that if he had intended to hit me, I wouldn't have been able to dodge it. Just the force of his punch is so strong. If it hit my head, it would probably shatter like a watermelon. Even so, I have no fear at all, calmly asking him if he is caking. He didn't expect me to have such courage. His eyes showed a look of admiration. He thought all C-class adventurers were useless. Then he lightly patted my chest, indicating that was enough. He wanted to give me a task. I understood he meant a commission, but I didn't have time to ask what it was. This underground emperor started talking to himself, saying he could give me whatever I wanted, because he has already conducted an in-depth investigation on me. Leon, you come from the Royal Academy, and you're perpetually second in the class. He even knows exactly when I dropped out. He confidently stated that I don't want to become a knight, nor do I want to be a subordinate to the nobles, following their orders blindly. That's why he teaches those nobles a lesson, and became an adventurer. Unlike those adventurers who pursue profit and rewards, he also said that what I do now benefits society, and that I have a long-term vision. That's why I was able to reach C rank in just 2 missions. Although he admired my intelligence-gathering ability, I'm not at all like he thinks. Before I could refute him, he kept saying that he wasn't after money. His goal was simple. He wanted fame, because with fame, even nobles can't manipulate him easily. So he didn't hesitate to go to the dangerous slums, just to gain fame. He said if I accepted his commission, will help me achieve my wish. Seeing how confident this guy is, I don't understand what he's up to. The sword spirit explained to me, this guy is not entirely wrong, because up to now, all the tasks I've completed, it's normal for outsiders to misunderstand that I'm seeking fame. But Khan's misunderstanding of me is completely different from the guild receptionists. I don't need to explain anything to Khan. Maybe we'll become enemies in the future. So I decided to use his misunderstanding of me. Tarkin opened a bottle of wine, and started introducing this mission to me. 3 or 4 months ago, a group of forces entered the slums. At first, Khan didn't pay much attention, until one day, they attacked District 23 and District 25, and even took over 200 lives in one night. When I heard this, I wondered if the death of the reclusive spirits was related to these people. Watching Khan continue to talk to me about the forces in the slums, the power here is divided into 3 parts, held by 3 people. One is the merchant Simon, known as the King of Hell in Jinju. The other is a killer named Gonjichi, whose true identity no one knows. The last one is himself, and he's the most formidable. The place where Khan had an accident is Simon's territory. Moreover, Simon lent them a lot of money. This made Simon furious. To get rid of these people, he dispatched 500 mercenaries. I didn't expect the entire army to be wiped out. Who exactly are these people? And the Empire didn't even take it seriously. Khan told me that everyone investigating this matter ended up in coffins. Then he crushed the wine bottle with one hand, except for his pig, which was so scared it didn't dare to make any rash moves. And Miyazaki's forces are watching all of this. Even his own subordinates advised him not to confront directly. So he came to me, an adventurer who only seeks fame. And from the earlier test, he knows I won't back down in the face of danger. I'll rise to the challenge, just because of this unyielding spirit. So believe me, I won't refuse. At that moment, I crossed my legs and asked him if he chose me to drag the Union into this. He praised me for being smart. He asked if I could join him. 100 foolish subordinates can't compare to one smart person. After I refused him, Khan threw me some evidence. He hoped I would take it to the Union first. I was shocked after I opened it and saw it. It contained evidence of evil wantonly killing innocent people in the slums. Using the worst-case scenario, there could have been thousands of deaths. And even if these victims disappeared in this lawless area, no one would investigate the truth. I couldn't imagine such horrifying things happening in the city of Brian. I asked Khan, as long as we submit this evidence, does that mean the task is complete? However, he said the Union leaders are quite rigid, and won't easily believe things of unknown origin. Then I understood why he asked me for help, which is to have me testify. I am the real, convincing presence for the Union leaders, a living piece of evidence. Khan's plan is truly meticulous. If I survive, I can report back. Even if I die, I can become evidence. Khan laughed, thinking he's exceptionally clever. Then his gaze turned fierce. He asked if I would refuse his commission. Facing Khan's mockery, I slammed my fist heavily on the table. I confidently told him, I'll take on this commission. Of course, I know how malicious Khan's actions are, but you have to know that finding evidence in the slums is something only a few can do. And most importantly, if I succeed, I can save millions from disaster. Then Khan threw me some gear. I took out a sword with an icon on it. Khan told me, this sword has a special symbol engraved on it. If anyone gives you trouble in the future, just show them this. He also said besides attacking, no one would dare touch you. And that seemingly ragged craft paper bag contained the legendary magic scrolls. Then he said these would count as his deposit. But for these things, I naturally didn't care at all. I just wanted to know, was that punch intended from the start? At this moment, Khan showed his signature smile again. Then he disappeared into the night. I sat silently on the big bed in the room, recalling everything that happened today. Khan is indeed a very powerful guy. In the upcoming missions, I also need to strengthen my training. Then I turned to ask the sword spirit, what can be seen from today's data? But the sword spirit said some things shouldn't be concluded too early. If the method is not used properly, it could very likely lead to a tragedy. I immediately realized, this guy actually wants me to investigate personally. But even so, trying to infiltrate an area with 500 mercenaries is no easy task. And what I need right now is to find a helper. Not only must one be strong enough, but also must be a righteous person like me. Following the sword spirit's guidance, I arrived at the Holy Order. To my surprise, the Order's branch was located in the slums. Perhaps only those who do not seek fame and fortune are not easily tempted. And the clergy are such people. They uphold only the belief and the teachings of the goddess. This also means that here, I must ensure 100% sincerity. I look at the surrounding crowd. Each of them appears to be very kind and friendly, and they maintain the most genuine trust in others. Thinking of this, I can't help but become curious. What kind of existence is the bishop here? At that moment, the door in front of me suddenly opened. Immediately, the spiritual energy within me started to surge uncontrollably. When I saw who had arrived, I couldn't help but gasp. The bishop here turned out to be an elf. He then invited me in and introduced himself as successor, and asked me if elves like him are rare. About me clearing the monsters in the sewers and on the city walls. He said he had heard about it, and said the goddess would be very pleased to know. Seeing his incredibly sincere expression, even I felt a bit embarrassed. But who knew that the next second he changed his usual gentleness, his eyes revealing a sharp look. He asked me what brought me here. I immediately took out a stack of documents and placed them on his desk, but I signaled Cesar to look them over. At this moment, Cesar's face twisted with rage as he looked at the documents. His face was covered in veins. He asked me where these documents came from. There's no time to verify the information now. If it turns out to be true, then it was already too late. So I suggested he recommend some suitable candidates to me, to go to the area mentioned in the intelligence together. However, the bishop hesitated after hearing this, because none of the people under his command were strong fighters. Most of them were proficient in holy light recovery magic, and wouldn't be much help. Just when I was feeling disappointed with the only place I could trust and seek help, the bishop's gaze became exceptionally resolute. Then he slowly began to speak. Since that's the case, I will have to handle this personally. I was taken aback upon hearing this. The head of the Holy Order personally stepping in. I originally thought I could only convince a few paladins. I never expected someone of his rank to join me in the investigation. Really? At this moment, my expression and reaction was seen by the bishop. He thought I was doubting his abilities. In my astonished gaze, I saw his right arm tremble with a buzzing sound. A ball of spiritual fire instantly appeared in his hand. Looking at the high purity flame in his palm, I understood that no matter how hard the object, it would be burned to ashes. The sword spirit also told me that only through countless real battles could one reach his level, and that his strength is comparable to the underground Emperor Khan. Looking at the man with a gentle expression who retracted his aura, I marveled that he truly deserved his bishop-level status. After I flattered him a bit, he finally laughed heartily in satisfaction. From the bishop's words I learned, 50 years ago, although he was a member of the Holy Templar Order, now he is just a retired veteran. This makes me admire him even more, because anyone from the Holy Templar Order could easily be a ruler of their own territory. I hurriedly went forward to shake the bishop's hand, asking him to look after me in the future. When the bishop went to pack his gear, I was suddenly full of confidence, because the bishop, who comes from the Order of the Holy Iron Chain Knights, is assisting. He alone is worth thousands of troops. Why worry about not accomplishing great things? I imagined the bishop using the unique and stylish elven bow and arrows during his service. Just pulling the bowstring would captivate thousands of young girls. But 10 minutes later, my worldview was shattered. His weapon turned out to be a massive meteor hammer. What the heck? It doesn't match his demeanor at all. Just as I was stunned, he started swinging it right in front of me. Then he suddenly hurled the meteor hammer. With just one blow, he smashed a huge rock 30 meters away. Then he grabbed the meteor hammer and told me the passionate story of how he used it to defeat the evil demons before. He even enthusiastically declared that he would eradicate evil again. But seeing his righteous expression, I knew I had found the right person. At night, I arrived at the 20th line mentioned in the intel. The bishop had been following me all along. To avoid drawing attention, the bishop was dressed in common slum attire. However, I asked the sword spirit. I could sense his presence only using spiritual energy, but other methods didn't work. The sword spirit explained to me that this is a spiritual energy skill. One can hide their presence using spiritual energy, but it's very difficult to use this while moving. The reason I can sense him with spiritual energy might be because of the energy attribute. My energy attribute is the sun. The bishop's energy attribute is the moon. Invisibility doesn't work against sun energy. At this moment, I'm thinking about our energy attributes. The sun and the moon. Could it be a coincidence? Before long, we arrived at our destination, District 23. At that moment, I was grateful for the dagger King gave me. No matter what kind of thugs we encountered along the way, as long as I took out the dagger, these people immediately treated me with great respect, as if they'd seen their father. We successfully passed through the slums, and the bishop was eager to eradicate the evil. I could feel his killing intent. The sword spirit and I just felt a chill all over. Then I opened the saw cover, telling the bishop that this is where the evil territory begins. This is the route provided by Khan. After walking through the damp saws for a while, the bishop suddenly extinguished the fire in his hand, motioning me to keep silent. Above us, someone is actually plotting something. From their words, we learned that they plan to sacrifice 200 more people and conduct some bizarre ritual. Sword Spirit and I immediately became furious. 200 people are living beings. These people have been capturing sacrifices for months. This must not happen. Sorry, I haven't taken action yet. The bishop beside me swung his hammer and said he would go first. With a loud bang, he rushed out of the saw. He came up behind the two of them. Then he threw his meteor hammer. With one blow, he smashed their heads. When I climbed up, I couldn't help but complain. Weren't we supposed to sneak in quietly? The bishop praised my skills. He looked at the watermelon knife in my hand, and couldn't help but sigh. Although it looks ragged, I didn't expect it to break through the enemy's armor. I explained that I didn't expect the enemy's weapon to be so useful. He didn't know that it was all due to the special spell cast by the sword spirit on the holy sword. In others' eyes, the holy sword is just a watermelon knife. The reason for doing this is because the holy sword is too flashy and conspicuous. Everyone immediately knows it's the legendary holy sword. Then I thought about sneaking in here with the bishop. Though it wasn't very successful, we gained a lot. Just the fact that these people use the forbidden external magic is enough to convict them. So we decided to go deep into the enemy's lair to gather intelligence. But when we opened the door, we found the horrific scene inside was like hell. There were several bloody scalpels on the table. I felt nauseous and wanted to throw up. Who knows how many people died here, and what kind of torture they endured. At this moment, Sword Spirit warned me, you must not become indifferent to these tragedies, and you must not ignore this tragedy, even if the whole world closes its eyes. As the boy chosen by the Holy Sword, you must keep your eyes open, and use everything you have to fight them. I asked the Sword Spirit in confusion, isn't my greatest enemy the Demon King? The Sword Spirit rebuked me. You actually consider the Demon King as your opponent. This world won't become better just by eliminating one Demon King. For the poor, poverty is the Demon King. For the sick, disease is the Demon King. You can slay the Demon King with the Holy Sword, but can you use the Holy Sword to cut down poverty and disease? In this comparison, what's a Demon King that can be killed with a sword? The duty of a Holy Sword warrior is to make tomorrow better than today. This is what a warrior should do. It is also the reason you keep fighting. Only by facing these tragedies can you sever the root of all evil. Hearing the Sword Spirit say so much to me, I took a deep breath. Then my eyes immediately became resolute. I understood what kind of path I would be walking in the future. My change at this moment caught the bishop's attention. He didn't expect me to recover from the dire situation just now, and it only took a few seconds. It's rare to see such willpower in a young man. But he reminded me, from the moment we entered here until now, the places we passed were all storage for corpses. Moving forward, there are at least a dozen enemies waiting for us. If we charge in blindly, we'll definitely suffer losses. And I thought of the scroll Khan gave me. I didn't want to use it so early, but now I have no choice. When I unrolled the scroll, the magical waves it emitted even shocked the archbishop, who asked what this was. The magic from the scroll flowed into my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, those yellow pupils seemed to see through everything. The Sword Spirit noticed something. This scroll grants the user short-term X-ray vision. With the addition of the overlay spell, the effect is not to be underestimated. At this moment, I stood still, observing everything around me, seeing everything clearly. As the scroll fell to the ground, a powerful backlash swept over. The bishop hurriedly supported me as I was about to fall. I told him I was fine. Then I reported the surroundings to him, the locations of the rooms and the number of enemies, but only the room in the middle couldn't be seen through. He saw me wipe away the blood from my nose. I told the bishop where the entrance to this room was. It might be the core area, but the bishop was very cautious. I feel like this room might be a trap set on purpose, disguising its strengths as weaknesses the enemy would assume, so the prey falls into the trap by itself. This place might just be a shell for disposing of bodies. The real base might be in District 25. I think the bishop's analysis makes sense, but I still decide to confirm it before leaving, because the next time we come here, it will definitely be heavily guarded. Today is the best opportunity.